On June 25th, the new moon in Cancer ushers in a deeply emotional and intuitive new beginning, my friends. Now, I've been waiting to talk about this new moon in Cancer for quite some time, and I did touch on it, I think, pretty in detail in my June forecast. I kind of put out 2 June videos a couple of weeks ago. Now, I know by the time you're watching this, June is almost concluded, but this new moon was something I've been very, very excited to talk about, despite the horror show that we see going on in the world. But I do feel this new moon could provide potentially some kind of a quick enlightenment involving some new seeds to be planted, some new insights to be gained, possibly even emotional liberation. Now, this new moon is conjunct Jupiter, which already in my view is a very powerful moment for expansiveness, of course, for having maybe even some faith and hope. God forbid people in the world would like to think that there's hope still. I always think that there's hope, by the way. There is always hope for change. There's always hope for progression. And there's always hope for massive lessons to be learned. Okay, because some people don't even think about that. Some people don't even think, wow, what can I actually learn from this horrible thing? Or what can I actually learn from this challenging thing? And, even within the astrology community, people are doom and gloomers around squares and oppositions. I do not take that view. I think, squares and oppositions are possibly full of tension. Absolutely. But without that tension, without that slight struggle or extreme struggle, or some of the greatest struggles you'll ever face with in your life, potentially even death, you will never understand how to get clear and to grow through that pain, through that fear, through that anxiety. Okay. And I don't want to go off on a tangent, but, I do have a lot of older clients, and some of them are facing some of those end years. And when a square or opposition is happening for them, where we don't know how that's going to manifest for them, we always come to that conclusion, well, this is the greatest test of my faith in the afterlife, in the divine, in the next journey that will unfold. Now, this Cancer new moon can provide us very deep spiritual insight, very deep emotional and intuitive insight. And a Jupiter Cazimi is literally happening the day before this new moon. And to me, that is even more of a omen or a sign of some kind of clarity moment in the Cancer part of your life, and potentially in the way that we're witnessing the Cancer archetype with Jupiter there play out throughout the world. Okay. Now, I'm not going to talk about the world, guys. I put out a pretty big Uranus and Gemini video, and I think when I do more collective themes that are bigger in scope, and trust me, we're going to get deeper into Uranus and Gemini and some of the outer, of course, there's a lot of mundane astrology to talk about, but, I'm not a political astrologer, just to say that flat out. And I do have my beliefs, of course. I'm a freaking human being here. But at the same time, like, my role and my mission in life as a guide, an intuitive, and also a professional astrologer and a teacher, of course, is to help people, and by helping people and helping us still fulfill our own missions here, and to break free from the psychological patternings and the spiritual prisons, and yes, the horror of the world or whatever, that we still need to come back to ourselves in order to even fix the problems of the world. So that being said, this new moon will, of course, play out on the world stage, of course. And this will probably be a powerful birthing moment, because new moons are all about birthings, full moons are all about revealings. And this will probably be a big birthing moment on, I believe, something involving the emotional reciprocity that can bring us all together, or at least maybe there could be some progress done that will aid in a process of bringing people together. Now, I think the protests, again, not to go off into mundane astrology land, but I think the protests that we've been seeing around the world in opposition to, for example, Trump, that's a huge, I feel like that's a massive Jupiter and Cancer theme. And the square to the early degrees of Aries is also playing a role in that. And I discussed that, in a very, very powerful way I believe even in my Uranus and Gemini video that I just put out, because I did touch on Jupiter in Cancer a little bit there, and in the Mars Virgo video I just released prior to this one. So, but guys, in our own life, we are talking about a rare Cazimi happening right before this new moon. So I want you to really think about the Cancer part of your life. And I've been asking you guys so much lately, like, what is the Cancer part of your life? Where is that? Where is that in your birth chart? And those squares go into the early degrees of Aries, because again, that Aries story is playing out in a really big way, involving structuring an aspect of yourself that needs to be broken free, more independent, and, more freedom seeking potentially. How are you organizing that Aries part of your life? How are you, or not even organizing, how are you trying to restructure and dream something new there? Okay, we need more spiritual and creative discipline in that Aries part of our life. And I'm not saying creative in an artistic sense. I'm saying how are you going to get creative with your life? How are you going to redesign something there? Okay, and that you need to maybe dissolve some old identities too in that part of your life, dissolving some old viewpoints of yourself and way of existing in that Aries part of your life. Like if you had Aries in the 7th house right now, you might be trying to dissolve an old version of yourself that you were always known for in your relationships. Now, what new you is trying to be birthed online in that Aries part of your life in the 7th house, okay? Because Saturn also wants to restructure some shit there, So guys, the squares to Jupiter are very important to keep in mind, for this new moon still. And this is the moment I think we are maybe given that enlightenment, some further clarity on those squares to Saturn and Neptune as well. And that's why I think on the world stage, we may see something, we may see something that really pierces through like the illusion of like, holy shit, like this is really what's going on. And like, if we can't have any more of those moments already in United States politics or world politics really. But yeah, so in a way I'm looking forward to this new moon very much. And at the very least, we might just see seeds getting planted involving it, because that's really what new moons are about, guys. We don't necessarily see them pop off like massive events. Maybe we do. I don't know. I can't predict the specifics of what might be birthed in this Jupiter new moon. This Cancer new moon moment. But I do think on an intuitive level, we might all kind of sense something a little bit more expansive, hopeful, or emotional kind of play out. Something new will very much activate our consciousness and play a role in maybe how we even move forward as a world in some way, shape, or form. Now, I know there's a lot of war drumming on the horizon, and who knows what that's going to be. But again, we have all these outer planets in play, and this new moon might trigger something. It may trigger something. It may help something. Maybe it's a peace deal. Who the heck knows? So we need to keep our eyes open, because anything is possible. And we just have to make sure we're playing with the right archetypal energies and symbols as we unfold astrology. And then, of course, use our own intuition and our own discernment as we navigate. So, but for me, guys, and for us, intuitively, I know that there's going to be a lot of opportunity for us to plant seeds, for us to get clear. And I really do believe we're all going to kind of have an expansive, emotional, possibly psychic revelation. And I know full moons are more about revealings, but I think this Cazimi is going to almost act like a mini, I don't want to say a full moon, but this Cazimi is really going to purify the nature of Jupiter in the Cancer part of your life. And that's going to also trigger a day later, this new moon. So that Cazimi is really important to talk about. And I was thinking about making a whole other video for that, but I'm like, you know what? It's really not worth it. I don't want to blather on for 30 minutes on Cazimis, because honestly, I'd run out of gas pretty quick. But yeah, very, very important to talk about involving this new moon. Now, this new moon is also falling in the first decan of Cancer. And if you know me, you know that I work with the decans in astrology and also the tarot symbolism associated with those decans. I have been, working with tarot for many, many years of my life. And I teach tarot symbolism. I have a massive course on tarot coming next year. I have a lot of courses actually coming next year, two big ones really. And definitely a masterclass involving the decans as well. So I'm trying to plan out my ninth house Cancer, by the way, stories, because that is kind of a really powerful place for me. That's activating a place of where I need to really step into my role as a teacher in a big way in 2026. And as I've been sharing more of my experiences, I've been talking about that ninth house story for me with the Mars retrograde this winter, and also what Jupiter, I think, is really going to be providing me all this year. But this first decan, my friends, we are going to work with that in this new moon today. We're going to talk about it. It's ruled by Venus, and the tarot card associated with it, we will talk about in just a moment. But it very much, to me, also provides some extra insight on how this is a really lovely, potentially lovely card for union, relationships even, and how we can even further connect with ourselves and, of course, possibly someone close to us or people around us. Again, this card is very much associated with union, okay? So that all being said, we are going to talk all about that. And I hope if you're, new to the channel, potentially, I don't know who's new out there, guys, but, if you want to subscribe to the channel, like the video, that would be really helpful for the channel's algorithm to share my work with other people out there. I know so many people over the last couple of months have been finding the channel here, and it's been just so beautiful to see this community grow. I could not be more thankful and grateful. But yeah, my name is Joe Theodore. I'm a consulting astrologer, intuitive, and teacher, and I definitely want to provide you the most insight and clarity in the astrological transits, and also just life generally speaking, and also within the soul and spirit and our evolutionary process through this life as we unfold it in real time. So also, if you'd like to book readings with me, links down below. I have some new offerings that are really awesome, so check that out as well. But yeah, my friends, let's just continue cruising on and musing on this new moon in Cancer, and talking about this decan, this tarot card, and also just some further talking points that I would love to share with you so you can integrate them for this lunation cycle. All right, my friends, now let's talk about this first decan of Cancer. This first decan is ruled by Venus, which is going to bring a softness and a beauty potentially to this new moon. And when I say beauty, I just mean harmonious, potentially pleasurable in a way. And I know these are words that might, again, seem really foreign when we look at what's going on in the world, but we have to understand that there are still things that can bring good into our lives and good into this world. And Venus ruled decans, I do believe, really do soften what we're going to be experiencing. And to have a Venus ruled decan falling with a new moon in Cancer with Jupiter, the two, and then again, a benefic technically is the ruler of this decan. Jupiter is the greater benefic, and the moon is home in Cancer, So this is a really powerful moment for this new moon to be falling in this very beginning of even the tarot story involving the water cups suit. So the tarot card associated with this first decan is the Two of Cups. So we are really starting the journey of the minor arcana involving the cups suit. And Cancer, of course, is a cardinal zodiac sign. So this is definitely a powerful start involving whatever this Jupiter Cazimi will provide us the day before this new moon. But also this new moon is very symbolic for initiation, which is again another reason why the squares to Aries are, in my opinion, this is more of a hopeful moment for this new moon to provide us with maybe an enlightenment to plant those proper seeds, to come up with that right intuitive and an emotional, like, oh my God, like that's it, or that's the person I want to spend the rest of my life with, or that's the person that I want to seek out and really connect with, or that's the organization and the collective thing that I want to be a part of, you know? So this first decan, ruled by the Two of Cups in the tarot, ruled by Venus. Okay. Now the Two of Cups is all about emotional reciprocity, had a brain fart, heartfelt connection, and soul-aligned bonds, union. Okay, so themes to embrace for this new moon involving this Two of Cups energy: forming or deepening emotional reciprocal connections, recommitting to personal values and emotional authenticity, committing, Two of Cups. Let's commit to each other. Let me commit to this opportunity. Let me commit on a very emotional level to this thing, to this person, to this idea. Okay. Depending on the house topic, theme of life this new moon is falling in, greatly dictates this connection, correct? Healing through love, vulnerability, and mutual care. So there is, again, we cannot deny the power of love involving this new moon. Okay, we cannot, and especially when dealing with Cancer, the emotional nurturing of a mother's love, of this care and compassion that Cancer can bring, you know? So when we talk about the symbolism of this Two of Cups energy, it's a man and a woman typically facing each other, holding a cup, suggesting mutual exchange. So again, a mutual exchange. We're also dealing with ideas and symbolism of healing, communication, and harmony. So this is a card that we love to draw in tarot, okay? And honestly, I don't want to say there's going to be a peace deal in the world by any means, but there is a chance that this can bring some reconciliation to some things in the world, okay? Now, I don't know what that looks like, but it does seem like there could be moments where there can be some solutions and there could be some peace in some way, shape, or form. Now, please don't hold me to that. Don't come back and say, Joe, you predicted that like this was going to be a peaceful time in the world. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that this is a time where communication and harmony and some kind of togetherness can maybe be part of the solution to a problem. And this will definitely be playing into the squares to the early degrees of Aries. So that is why I'm saying that, because we've been having a conflict with those early degrees of Aries with Saturn and Neptune. Now, we also have Mars sextiling this new moon from Virgo. And I made a whole video on Mars going into Virgo and the sextile to Jupiter. But this is also important to note because that Virgo part of your life, please tell me where the Virgo part of your life is. Please tell me where Aries is in your life, Jupiter in your life, in Cancer. What do you think this new moon is going to provide you? I would love to know what you think. What do you think is happening here for you? You know, definitely let me know. But, you know, when it comes to just like this new moon and how this is all going to play out with all these other transits, again, I think this is going to be helpful for stuff in the world. I don't think it's going to be harmful. I don't think this is a new moon where we're discussing like, you know, anything shocking and destructive because we have to wait for Uranus and Gemini to get us there, because we will see what that activates, of course. But this is really about emotional new beginnings and expansion. And we have to see how that's going to play out to the squares going to Aries. We have to see how Mars and Virgo is going to be supporting that from the Virgo part of our lives. From this, you know, Mars is all about, you know, getting kind of aggressive and assertive. But in Virgo, this is about getting methodical. This is about getting precise. This is about working step by step with clarity and precision. So this is a very interesting, a very interesting new moon on how we're dealing with this first decan, Venus, Two of Cups energy, this connection that is very lovely, but the Cazimi right before, what is this going to birth into our existence? What is this going to cleanse and enlighten, you know? And don't get it twisted. This can also turn into some kind of a further of war drumming in the world. But in my opinion, this seems like there could be a softening of something. So we really have to keep our eyes open. We, again, like I keep telling all of you guys with all of this, but there is an emotional new beginning and expansion, at the very least, probably going to be happening within our life. Okay. And I do think that this is going to be an anecdote where Mars and Virgo can also offer solutions and allow us to be more methodical on how we approach this new beginning or these new intentions or this new revelation, even because the Jupiter Cazimi, I think, will very much provide insight and enlightenment involving something going on in that Cancer part of your life. So I'm really interested to know what your intuition is telling you already, potentially, about this Cazimi for your life, because I really want you to meditate, guys. Meditate into the Cancer part of your life. Meditate into what's going on in Aries. And I know we've only been about maybe a couple of days into Mars and Virgo, so we really haven't been able to feel into what Mars and Virgo might be for us, but I know many of you guys have that sensitivity within you. So, share with me what you think this is all about. Because Mars is going to be that grounding force in this whole thing. A harmonious sextile to Mars and Virgo provides the discipline to act on intentions with precision and care. So again, we still have to get to work. There is still an essence of like, okay, well, we're planting new seeds here. This new moon is lovely. This connection is beautiful. This moment where I'm feeling maybe a little bit more unified somewhere. Like now I'm clear to maybe take those steps, possibly, Mars encourages daily routines, health habits, and service-oriented actions with all of this. So we might, and I also think we're going to be able to channel emotional insights into small, tangible steps. So I think our emotions are definitely going to be guiding the ship. Our sensitivities are definitely going to be guiding the ship here for us. So I think this new moon very much supports plans that are emotionally wise and pragmatically sound. So I think this is where not only do we get possibly liberated from our heart space and our emotional system, where we become more intuitively and psychically clear on even how we approach and handle the squares to the early degrees of Aries. But this also allows us to get grounded on how we can really start working to the solutions, And that's why I kept talking about my life. I always use myself as an example, by the way. And I know a lot of you appreciate that because I've been through a lot of shit in my life and I have a lot of knowledge under my belt, I think, when it comes to astrology and all this stuff that I talk about. Otherwise I wouldn't be here speaking to you. But, for me, like, I could very much see how my ninth house of Cancer has been teaching me a lot about how I'm supposed to be showing up in the knowledge and the wisdom and the philosophies that I've adopted over the years, and how I've been growing even as a teacher, okay, for all of you fine folks, and how that ninth house is really about like, okay, well, how is Jupiter going to be growing me over the next year so I can, even grow further in my sixth house of Aries, where Neptune and Saturn are, for my own daily life routines and expansion of my own selfhood in how I show up to work every day. And this is my job, and then teaching classes and courses next year will be my job. So, and Mars, I think right now, after coming through the month of June in a kind of a big way of like really diving into deeper research on how to go about like things that I actually want to teach in the future. This new moon with Mars, I think, because I'm already sensing it, like I'm going to be so much more clear, I think, as the summer unfolds, as I'm preparing further and further research on how to go about all of the lesson planning and all of that stuff, So for me, like, this is a deeply emotional time. This is a powerful trigger in my life where I feel I'm even growing in a very deeply emotional, intuitive, of course, way. Psychic sensitivity is off the charts right now. And that also has something to do with Neptune being right on top of my North Node in the early degrees of Aries, along with Saturn there. So again, I'm having massive activations in a very powerful spiritual sense, which I won't get into now, of course. But, this new moon, I think, is going to provide me like maybe a moment of like, wow, okay, like, I think I know how to handle these squares, these tensions, this stuff going on between Aries and Cancer for me. And Mars is going to help me probably organize some shit a little bit better, organize some things a little bit better. And that 11th house for me, a Virgo, is where you guys are found. Social media, collective stuff, people, right? For future students, things like that. So this is really all lining up for me. And I hope my sharing kind of, provides you with some like insight on how this actually could be working out for you even, because again, these squares and this stuff are not scary for our own life. I mean, we have to work through these inner struggles, these inner like things, like I don't really know how else to describe it. Like they're inner moments of like, oh my God, like what do I actually do? What do I actually want to teach? Who am I on the deepest of level right now? And how do I want to even approach courses? What courses do I actually want to teach? Like even the decision making in itself. So, but again, it's not ruining my life. It's just putting me into a position where, wow, this might actually be defining the a next phase of my career in a big way. So I need to figure this out and be Mars Virgo methodical about it and be very clear and to hopefully have some kind of a heart opening, emotional, expansive moment during this new moon or something like that. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about, my friends. I think that might be it. Guidance for you guys, maybe a couple of guidance tips. Emotional awareness. What wants to begin? Ask yourself that. What wants to begin right now? Just like I was talking about myself. What courses do I actually want to teach in the future? Like, what do I actually want to be known for as a teacher or as someone who is going to be emotionally vulnerable more as I share from my heart, as I share from my personal experiences, as I teach. And that is something that I feel is very important to me, to share from the depths of my own experience and to also bring forth my intuitive downloads and psychic insights to my work, and to not just be all about technique, but to be very much about emotional and intuitive perspective. So ask yourself, where in my life do I crave more emotional nourishment or emotional expansion, right? Navigating inner conflict. Okay, this is also something you need to ask yourself. How can you navigate inner conflict? Holding emotion and ambition together. This is involving the square stuff. So how do you navigate inner conflict? Do you need to meditate more? Do you need to go swimming if you're in the northern hemisphere with the summer? Like, do you need to find more water to swim in? I would suggest that, especially with all this Cancer activation, with Jupiter in Cancer, I would suggest finding a place to swim maybe a little bit more, that could be very helpful for you guys. And lastly, action with intention. Ground the feelings, okay? Ground the emotions, really sit with them, get shamanic with it, do even a little bit of earth-based spiritual practice. Okay, again, going back to water, immersing yourself in water, maybe doing some kind of a fire ceremony if you need to. Okay, be careful with fire, but write some stuff down on a piece of paper that maybe you want to birth in the future or something you want to plant seeds in, and then find a safe place to light that shit on fire, burn it and sizzle it into ash, and really say a little prayer and ask this new moon to provide you with that clarity, and maybe some of that insight to overcome whatever you feel might be challenging you. Or if there's something beautiful that's about to manifest and you can feel it, still you can do a fire ceremony to release something from your past so you can open this new path forward in front of you. Okay? So action with intention, that is huge, I think, for this new moon, because this really is going to start a lot of what's to come in the summer. And again, I know that there's wild astrology coming, especially with Uranus and Gemini. And the next video I put out, obviously, is the July forecast. And we're going to talk a lot about the next 2 lunation cycles, of course, but also Uranus going into Gemini and how that is going to immediately trine Pluto and sextile Neptune and Saturn in Aries. So this is really where we get that first blast of the new future, as I like to say when it comes to the mundane astrology stuff, because I don't really think we understand that we're just getting the first doses of what this new future will look like. again, will the wars that are being triggered right now in the Middle East, or even what's going on still with Russia, again, all the shit going on in the world, even the United States, like what goes on this summer will really kind of be like the ultimate clarity of where things ultimately may go, or massive decisions that will need to be made in order to course correct. So this is where the mundane shit gets real. But in our own life, this is also where the Gemini parts of our lives, the Aquarian parts of our lives, and the Aries part of our lives really get that electric shock of, oh, wow, I think now I know what the totality of what this new dimension I will be existing in is going to feel like. Because then, Uranus will retrograde back into Taurus in the fall, and same with Saturn and Neptune. But again, once we get to April 2026, when Uranus flips back into Gemini for the final time, for the official time, where it won't retrograde back into Taurus, this is when we are truly going to be in full understanding of what the next chapters of our life actually will look like. And I can't wait to explore all of that with you, my friends. Now, this video is over. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. And I will see you in the next video.